Hi everyone, it's Killshot99 Dead, and this is the future of The Walking Dead. Will Rick and Morgan unite, among other potential scenarios that could go down? I got a few bullet points that we'll jump into, but first I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for being here, and for many of you that are starting to find the 999 Dead channel. A lot of questions around that. 999 Dead just sounds kind of Walking Deadish. It sounds cool, and we got a lot of channels that we need to build up. We are getting very close to our first milestone. It's like doing it again. And those of you that started when we were at 50, 60, 70,000 subscribers, you're going to get a chance to really see all these channels sort of take shape and what we're going to do with them. Got some really exciting plans in the future. But I think we've hit almost 900 subscribers for our brand new channel. So we're getting ready to hit that first milestone again, that 1,000 mark. And then we're going to keep moving forward with that. So I want to say thank you to everybody for being here. I think I saw Valar, so Super Chat's still not up. Just be patient a couple more days. But I will, we'll have the same rules. Valar will say, hi, Kills, 999 Army, Emmy, Steph, Tommy, Kell, sponsors, patrons, the whole gang is here. This is a little bit smaller group. As we said before, it's a little bit more intimate. If you guys want to give me a chance to get more of your thoughts, more of your ideas included in this video. So if you were going to do a super chat, or if you were going to make a comment, just do it like a Q&A type of thing, and I'll try to get as many thoughts and as many comments as we possibly can in this video. And once again, once this video goes live, make sure you leave some comments in there and interact with some of the people, because we got a lot of international viewers that don't get a chance to watch it all as it's happening, and they watch the playback. And we will be doing our Saturday, Sunday streams early for those folks as well. So hopefully you guys are having a good afternoon. I saw some of the people. I wasn't here too long, but I saw a couple of the comments about the weather. Looks like a few people are getting snow and are dealing with some of the cold. So what better thing to do than stay inside and talk about The Walking Dead on a nice cold day outside. So let's talk about really where this idea came from. Well, The Walking Dead kind of started, with Rick and Morgan. So there's always been a thought that their paths will have to cross again. Maybe they'll see each other. And I'm going to start out with the, just throwing a question out for the group. Do you guys think we will see a Rick and Morgan scene, a scenario, whether it's, it won't be on the TV show. It won't be on The Walking Dead. Maybe Fear, a little bit of a crossover, or a cameo, or maybe they meet in the movies. And that's kind of what I'm thinking the possibility is. Or a little bit of both. Maybe, Rick's trying to radio, and who knows? We're assuming they took Rick to D.C. or they took him, to an island. But what if they took him left? They took him to Missouri, or they took him closer to Texas. I know Missouri isn't close to Texas, but it's closer to Texas than Virginia. So, that's a possibility. We don't know where he is. Maybe they're going to fly down to Florida. But the part with Morgan that really intrigues me is it's tied into the success of Fear the Walking Dead. And I'm never one to put nails in the coffin of the TV show. And in fact, when others are out there saying, there's only 1.7 million viewers out there, I'm really doing a little bit of deeper dive and a little bit more research to see how popular Fear is. And last year, Fear actually had some episodes that spiked back up. So if Fear does not stabilize or even grow a little bit, if it continues to lose viewers kind of here or there, Drama King, and I think it not only depends on what happened to Fear during the time skip, it also depends on whether or not Fear can survive a couple more seasons. And I'm going to ask you guys, here's another follow-up question. And see, I can call on a few more people we do this with these smaller groups. How many more seasons do you think? Answer with your head, not your heart. That is one rule here. I know a lot of people are going to say, Fear's going to last forever. But how many more seasons do you think that Fear has? Based on where they're currently at. You think 1, you think 2, you think they'll take some of these characters and have to merge them? Because there are some good characters on Fear, and there's some very good actors. 1, 2 more seasons? Some people are saying it would merge. And maybe that familiar face. I didn't hear any rumors or any spoilers that Lenny James was filming, but you never know. Maybe they could film it in studio and they don't know that he was there. It's kind of hard to get over, but it would be interesting to see Morgan cross back over, at least for a little bit of time. And that way we would know after the time skip he's back there firmly in place, either in Alexandria. And maybe Morgan Michonne, possibility of going out to look for Rick. There's just a lot of untold circumstances. Like, we know that Negan knows about the helicopter. We know that Father G knows that Jadis took off. It's just a matter of time before they compare notes. And once they compare notes, then there's going to be a little bit of hope. I mean, Daryl has hope. Michonne has hope. And Daryl did say they never found the body. And this is 6 years later. You know, some people would give up at this point. Daryl is... They've never found the body. I mean, he's just not going to give up on it. It's always going to be in the back of his mind. So it seems like that's a story just sort of waiting to be told. Uncle Creepy says now that Gimple's out of the picture, they might just make up for things with a couple seasons. A couple great seasons. Possibility. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Love the thought of a Rick Hunt. Michonne said she won't give up. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a Morgan Michonne situation. And people, you know, they're not going to buy into that totally right now because they still want to see the story play out with Fear. But if Fear starts to wane, if Fear starts to just tank, then Damage Control would say that some of these characters have to have a home. I wouldn't just give up on them. So how do you guys feel about Troy and Daniel coming back to Fear? You think it's a desperation move? Because I'm going to compare that to something else that I absolutely don't like. Hate it, Troy far-fetched. I mean, Troy got beat down with a hammer. What the heck? I don't know. You know, I thought Daniel was dead. I thought Troy was dead. Madison. If they bring Madison back, I'm going to lose it. Because I won't make this totally about Fear, but normally this is where the super chatters would chime in and we'd kind of jump around topics. So we're going to do that anyway. I'm going to jump around topics. But look, I know Nick had to go because Frank wanted to leave the show. Nothing they could do about that. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, Rick. They could have killed Rick. You know, they could have let Nick leave and become a Whisperer. I guess they would have wanted to, but he was done. Troy, Daniel, I thought they were gone. Madison, so there's 3. Now, here's somebody that's not coming back. But am I the only one that thinks killing Mel the Vulture was a major, major mistake? I mean, you're going to bring Daniel back. You're going to bring Troy back. Now people are going to start to speculate, oh, Madison's coming back. We never saw it happen. She's out there somewhere, burnt face. She's the other half of Dwight. Put them together and you just got something. But Mel the Vulture is somebody, they could have converted him. They could have made him into, you know, like a renegade. They really could have developed that character. So of all the things that they've done that I've defended, I'm not a big fan of killing Mel. He was. I mean, Casey, right? He was an okay guy. He wasn't. I can justify Madison's death more than I can Mel's death. What was the purpose of even killing him? Why not just take him hostage? I mean, he didn't even really do anything wrong. So I just don't think that was very well thought out, because if you're going to bring Troy back somehow, some way, I'm just mind blown how that can even happen. I think I think Mel was a stronger character. So if you knew that you might do that at some point, you might as well just kept Mel. I mean, there ain't no bringing him back. Leonard Benedetto says 999 rocks. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Awesome support. Yeah, and there you go, drama. Right. Might as well bring Travis back. He's out there somewhere. So, Lee, I think that's an interesting comment. In some ways, fear seems like a project or an experiment. And I'm not here to bash fear, but I do have more issues with things they do on Fear than they do on The Walking Dead. And last season I thought was great. But you know what I liked most about last season? I'm gonna let a few people answer. I'm gonna answer. I'm gonna tell you. But I've mentioned it several times. The reason I thought last season was the best is because it wasn't repetitive. It wasn't the same characters. It wasn't the same boring storylines. It wasn't just a coincidence and the convenience, and they finally developed new characters. So how many people would just be okay getting to know Alicia a little bit more, or getting to know Althea a little bit more, or June, or John, and just have and Charlie even. You know, just finding out what these characters are capable of doing. So you don't need to bring these old blasts from the past. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Logan 5 says Madison or kills. Madison could be back very easily. There was a chain link fence behind her that went up and over. I watched it last night. Logan, no, don't, please. Some of the people that said they miss Madison, it's okay. It's okay to miss Madison. Missing Madison and wanting her or needing her back, it's two separate things. One, I really believe she's dead. But number two, and I've said this in a previous stream, do we really need Madison mothering all over Alicia all over again? Can we just move on from that story? She died to save her kids. It kills Alicia's development by having Madison just slobbering over her all the time. I just don't want to see it anymore. Is there anybody here that does want to see that? Please. If you do, just tell me why. Just explain it to me so I understand it. Alicia has so much potential just being out there and doing her own thing. Because I think you got some pretty strong possibilities. But I would not have killed Mel. I would have, he was already injured from the ambulance. I would have taken him, and then I think Mel would have been somebody like John Dory that people just would have liked. And we saw, in the beginning, we saw a little bit of his funny side, and then it was just either injured and panic and just all the threats back and forth. And but I would just like to see him in a little different arc. Okay. Yeah, I agree too. I think all the characters are solid. So, if fear can't clear the hurdle and people just can't gravitate to it, there's hardcore fans, we like it. But if they can't bring on new viewers and the show does start to fade a little bit, how would you like to see some of the characters play out? I mean, all of them aren't going to make it. It doesn't appear that Charlie's going to die. But where do you see these characters going? Do you see potentially another spinoff? Do you see a few of them making it on The Walking Dead and start to take over some of those roles? Or some additional Walking Dead type of movies where either we're back with Rick or they have their own thing? The thing I would say is, if a ton of people aren't watching Fear the Walking Dead, there's zero possibility in my mind that they're going to make a Fear the Walking Dead type of movie. Dorian Strand to The Walking Dead, Morgan to the movie. You know what? I like to fish. I could go with that. I would think you need to throw Alicia in there too. Ron Burgundy says merging Fear because the purpose has already come to an end. So here's part of the problem with Fear lasting a long time. Is they do some really cool stuff in Fear. And have some really good cinematics. I mean, there's things I like about Fear. But every time you do something really cool on Fear the Walking Dead with the characters that aren't 100% accepted by the mainstream audience, it's one less trick that you could have done for The Walking Dead. So you see what I'm saying? It's like kind of, that story they just told and all the mile markers and they met up with the new people. I mean, there were some cool things that went down that they haven't really experimented with. We saw some walkers, with mushrooms growing out of their forehead and a lot of those. But I just don't know there's that many innovative and creative ideas that you can have in the Walking Dead universe. And then if you use all the good ideas, if you start to lose your audience on Fear, and then you got some really, awesome ideas that you want to unveil. It's like, hey, this is a great idea. Let's get this out there to our viewing audience. Then Walking Dead, let's hope not, might start getting a little slow and a little corny. But now we're 6 years ahead again. I mean, Jim, the brewmaster, who can't get around that story? I mean, that was nice. So Daddy Corleone says Fear was better when they were hanging out at the beginning of the outbreak. That gave us a peek into pre-Rick, what it made. So Corleone, I agree. I think the first few episodes of Fear were good. And then, the second half, and then 2 and 3, and then 4, it kind of got my interest again. But it's only because they started introducing new people that were cool. Julia says, I love John and June. I'm with you 50% of that. So, Najee, I agree with that. They mention Alexandria, and then they decide to, plant some roots, build a community. That's going to be what Fear's about this season. But it is always in the back of their mind, and they, the writers do kind of hold that over our head that if we need Morgan to come back, if we need to cross over, we can. Just remember that as viewers. And I think they kind of said that. Yeah, I'm not a fan of June. Naomi, Wilma, whatever her name is. I don't know. I don't know how many names she has. I don't even know if that's a real name at this point. I'm not going to believe it until I actually see her license. I think that would have been a highlight of last season. Is after about the third name, if John would have just said, "Can you just show me some form of ID? Let's just settle on something." So, Uncle Creepy says Morgan the Time Traveler. And this is probably the most realistic of the potential crossovers, is Morgan is the only one who really knows where the group is. And Morgan has shown he can travel. I mean, Morgan has been, he made it from Atlanta to Virginia. He's been out in the wilderness a lot. Then he made it from Virginia to Texas. Morgan is well traveled. So if Morgan wanted to go back to Alexandria and then start tracking and finding Rick, I think he could do it. So, I got a question. This is one of those hidden clues that might not have been answered. How many people on The Walking Dead, in the Walking Dead universe, know about the helicopter and Jadis's contacts? This is where you guys answer. This is the interaction part. 2. Negan and Rick? Well, Negan and Father G is what you're going to say. But I don't think this has been discussed anywhere, so I'm going to give you just a little bit more bold prediction. How long was Morgan at the junkyard? About 6 months, right? What was said was about 6 months because there were some plants that he grew. Long enough to grow some veggies. All right. So, how much stuff could you rummage through in 6 months? I mean, was Morgan just there staring into outer space? You think there were some notes, some clues, some hints, some supplies, radios? I mean, you would think in 6 months that Morgan might have some intel, that Morgan might know something at this point. I would think so. I don't know that it's been discussed a whole lot. I don't know that anybody's came out there and said, hey, maybe Morgan knows something, because we assume it's all Negan and Father G. But Morgan spent more time there than anybody else other than Jadis. Now, I mean, we can speculate a little bit more. We don't know that the helicopter didn't fly back over. When Jadis left, I mean, how do we know they didn't make one last visit and Morgan saw the helicopter? maybe it's a plot hole. Maybe it's something we were meant to discuss. But he was there for long enough to snoop around and to find some stuff. So I would argue Negan, Father G, and Morgan. No. And if Morgan ever made his way back, and Morgan would probably be somebody that could have a conversation with Negan, as long as he's in his I'm not going to kill anybody, all life is precious mode, and gets a little bit of insight. I could see him getting some information. Yeah, Jadis Walkie was there. It was hidden. I don't know that he found it, but it wasn't like that hard to find. You're right, Jimmy. There could still be consequences. Yeah, he was, Julia, he was, but he still made it to Texas. So it wasn't like he was 24/7 freaking out. He managed to get to the junkyard and have a conversation with Jadis. And Gam, I agree with that too. I think there's still a lot of mystery around Althea, which is why I don't know that we need these blasts from the past coming back. There's a lot more story to tell. I don't need to know any more of John's story. I don't need to know, other than whether or not June's real name is June. But I want to know a little bit more about Althea, and then the rest of the characters, I just want to see them go out and develop and really get some consistency. Well, Deborah, I think that's an interesting question. Deborah says, you really believe all these people knew and never said anything? It depends on which side you want to argue. We could assume that Negan, every day, in that jail cell, had to talk about it to someone. Hey, by the way, Michonne, have you ever seen a helicopter? Because I was in that junkyard one day, and chick with the bowl cut had one, landing there. I could see, I could see that playing out, or I could see him just kind of keeping it to himself and saying, this is kind of creepy, but maybe I'll use this as leverage someday. But I don't know that they pieced it together, because they all haven't spent a lot of time together. We haven't seen Michonne, Daryl, and Negan sit around a campfire saying, well, I really miss Rick. What could have happened to him? Daryl's out there tracking, but he's not keeping a whole bunch of notes and letting people know what he found. Michonne's out there, but it's like we talked about last night. I think there would have been obvious clues to Rick's body being moved. I think that, to me, is either a major plot hole or something that is going to resurface, that those clues are going to resurface. The problem is, it's hard after 6 years to go back and look for Rick Grimes' tracks, so we don't know what they know, and they're certainly not still going to be there. The river. I guess if Angela Kang went on record and said, well, why didn't they find tracks of Rick, or why didn't they find any evidence? Well, the water was rising, right? That was the whole thing. We thought the bridge was going to be taken out, so you could make that argument. But if you did that, you're going to have to come back and make the same argument of, okay, well, why didn't his gun get washed away? I mean, these are questions that, where's Walking Dead Nerd? These are questions that we need you to ask at San Diego Comic-Con. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to warn once again. We can't pick apart every small detail because we're watching a show about zombies. I mean, you're starting with the premise that nothing is believable. So for us to pick apart the minor, plot details, I mean, and look, I don't want to be completely. Well, there's just things that I think about, like, do they never let Negan out of the cell to go to, like, a real bathroom? I mean, there's a ton of plot things we can talk about. Has he been out of that cell one time in 7 years? And if they were to do that, possibly they let him walk around the grounds a little bit. And if they let him walk around the grounds just a little bit, is it possible that he's seen some of the people, or maybe some of the graves? Or, I mean, there's so many things that you can kind of add to it, right? Yeah, has he had a bath? I mean, do they chain him up, let him take a shower, or do they kind of give him a bowl and say, here, wash yourself off? I mean, yeah, they're not going to give us every little detail, but if they don't, then we can certainly speculate and come up with our own ideas. And he got a haircut. Now, with all that being said, it's just one more, not a theory, not a funnel philosophy. It's just one more thing to sort of push over to the side and say, and I don't think it's of Morales stature, like what happened to that. I just think that it's more of a cause and effect type of thing right now. If Fear the Walking Dead tanks, the effect is the plot could change and Morgan could get more involved, and maybe he flies over, him and Rick. The nice thing about both of them being from the same area is that it would be easier to do a movie in the UK, right? Several of these actors could just be home, and I mean, I think that's another possibility for the two of them. Drew is God says might be out of left field, but you know what? It's out of left field, Drew. You are in the right place. What are the chances they write a Fear series finale and transition into at least some of that cast into Rick's first movie, mainly Morgan and Alicia? So, and that's kind of the big picture where I'm going with this. But I do think Drew, I think it does have a lot to do with a backup plan. I guess that's what I'm looking for, backup plan. If Fear does well and they're making a ton of money, and they can and they are making good money right now, they're not losing money, then they keep moving it forward. And both stories they work. Might not be as big as a lot of the pundits out there want it to be, and people are always going to criticize it, but it's doing well enough. So as it starts to deteriorate a little bit, if it were, then that's where I think that the Rick movie, it'd have a little bit more spice, right? If we talked last night about potential movie plots, but we didn't really talk about Morgan. So if Rick is escaping and Rick sees some familiar faces, and then, he's trapped and he sees a cell and it's like somebody looks like Heath, but then they take Rick and they put him, in another confined area, and in his mind he's like, man, that guy looks familiar. That could be Heath. Or And then you've got all these kind of stories that are unfolding. And I think that would keep the viewers on edge a little bit. But then if you put somebody like maybe Morgan or Michonne, and simultaneously you got them trying to find him, looking for clues, and then Rick, kind of not knowing where he's at or what's going on, and ultimately they do have a reunion, then I think it works. I think it doesn't work in the first movie because there's two things I think that you got to remember that they would need to accomplish. Maybe three things. Three things they need to accomplish with the Walking Dead movie. One of those things is it'd have to have enough action to get new viewers to watch the franchise show, right? Then the second thing that would need to happen is they got to retain people from a movie standpoint. They can't have a crappy movie as the first movie because people aren't going to watch any of the other ones. And then the last thing is you got to do the first movie with the intention of getting to an end. And I'm going to give you two scenarios because everything's a means to an end. The Rick story, who he meets, the adventure, does Jadis get to lay with him? Does Michonne, discover him and Rick's already moved on 6 years later? It could be whatever. I'm being facetious here. But I'm saying you got to go through the experience of what happens. And then, after 3, 4, 5 movies, whatever the case may be, what's the end game? And I'm going to give you two choices. Rick dies. Actually, three choices. Rick dies. Rick reunites. Or Rick is the Walking Dead. That Rick will be around for the cure. That Rick will do some great things. Do we end his story in movie format and it's like, okay, we kept him alive just to kill him? Do we keep his story there and let him kind of, regroup with some people? Or is Rick the person that can really finalize things? And a lot, anytime you say this, and you say Rick is the cure, or Rick will be around for the cure, or Rick is a badass, and he's going to be there when it goes down, immediately, the hardcore comic fans, that's when they chime in. They'll kind of sit back and listen to these streams. It's like, okay, yeah, all right. That sounds... No, there's not going to be a cure. Robert Kirkman said there'll never be a cure. It ain't going to happen that way. That's my hardcore comic fans. It always goes down that way. Sorry, I got a little bit excited there. But I've heard it before, and I've seen it before. But I got to ask this question, everybody. There's two possibilities of the way The Walking Dead is going to end. There's a cure, or everybody dies. There is no middle ground. It's one or the other. Eventually, the walkers will take over. Now, what's interesting about that immunity or that cure is what we talked about last night. And that is whether there's a place that exists where people have not been contaminated. But if there's 100 people and 20 of them turn into walkers and people don't multiply, eventually that they're just going to die. They're going to die of old age. They're going to stub their toe. They're not going to have medicine. They're going to starve to death. It is going down all over, not just in Alexandria. The whole world is probably going through that, where there's different degrees of people just dying off, and the dead are killing the living faster and faster and faster. So you're either going to have to live in seclusion until all the dead die out, and they don't have anybody else to kind of keep them going. Until they just kind of rot away. And maybe that's the purpose. Maybe they take Rick to this place where there's no threat. Kimberly G, safe zone. I'm down for that. But that's the end game. Because there's only so many movies that we're going to watch of Rick figuring it out and Rick's plot. So what is the end game to The Walking Dead? Everybody dies, or people start to live again? And it's a hard question to answer because it really lies in the hands of Robert Kirkman, the way he wants the series to end and when he wants the series to end. And he's probably twisted enough that he could say, hey, you know what? Everybody's dead. Nobody made it. It was just a matter of time. I mean, because we take on our own perspective, like we want there to be a little bit of hope. Eric's like, I'm a negative person. The Walkers are going to win. Well, Anna, here's the thing. Jenner said everyone's is infected, but Jenner's dead. And he only knew what he knew at that point. So, I mean, he had some intel, but the world is different. You don't know what the world is like, and you don't know that maybe his research was wrong. Mystics, I know it's a dumb question, but who all do you think will be alive when they reunite with Rick? I love it. Jenner was unstable. Jenner was a quack. Daryl and Morgan don't die. I love it, Andrea. I'm just checking out a couple comments here. Get a few people involved. Hey, you know what? Now is a great time. Just to throw it out there. If you guys are having a good time, you like what we do, you hang out with and enjoying the live streams, and the brand new channel has a nice, I do have to admit, has a nice flavor to it, and it does ring true to what we do. 999 Dead. A lot of times, and we're going to be streaming on gaming. We're going to be uploading on there. But as we develop our other channels, it does kind of hit home of what we do and what we talk about. So I'm going to ask everybody, pike the like button. You guys know how we roll. Let's keep it piking. All right. One of the constant sources of confusion is the time skip. But the beautiful thing about the time skip is there's so much data that we don't know. And some of the questions we ask today, they're natural questions because since we didn't experience the 6 years, they're going to plant an Easter egg here and tell us a little bit about that. But it does appear that Rick's movie is just going to, I would assume it's going to start right after the capture. A little bit of a backstory, just, how did you get here? What did you do? But a little bit. Because they can turn new viewers off very soon. With us hardcore people, they could do a movie of nothing but Rick walking around in an institution in circles, around a little pond, and we would watch it like for an hour and a half straight, just because it's Rick Grimes. It'd be like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and as long as it's Rick, people are going to be okay with it. I know he's going to say a word. I know he's going to say it. He's going to speak. But new fans are not going to have that much latitude. You know, Creepy, that is a great comment, and I hope you're wrong. But you're probably not. Creepy says, I doubt the writers even realized the plethora of storyline loopholes the fans find. Yeah, I mean, it does make sense that they're trying to get something that's visually appealing, but they know there's... I mean, I'm sure they identify some, and in their meetings, they're, how do we solve it? Oh, don't worry about it. Nobody will ask. And they do ask later on. We just throw an Easter egg out there and just solve it. So, as I was starting to go down that path a little bit earlier, are the movies a way to kill off Rick Grimes in the end? We're going to see the universe. Is it a way for them to show us that the universe is more about The Walking Dead than it is about Rick? Kind of like Jerry Maguire. They took him away to sort of fire him. Did they take Rick away to kill him? I'm not talking about the first couple and the confirmation that he's not dying in those. I'm just saying eventually, do we kind of live and, have our Han Solo moment where we get attached to him and then RJ reunites with him and then ends up pushing him off a bridge and he falls to his... No. I mean, I'm curious. I mean, I have my own hopes about what they would do with Rick. And the fact that they didn't kill him on the TV show and his work is not done, I find it hard to believe that they're going to kill him on the movie. Tammy Hill says, no, Rick doesn't die. I forbid it. But 1189 Paris says Rick will die. Well, he also said, everybody dies. Tommy, Man Bun McCandless, my hero list. Number 1 kills, number 2 Rick. That is some high praise. Well, I am not of the stature of Rick, but I will say this. I am much, much more available to each and every one of you than Andrew Lincoln is. So, it's the best I can do. It's got to count for something. Casey, we could have Walking Dead movies, but do they all need to have Rick Grimes starring in them? I mean, we did talk about last night, there could be some badder people in the universe and maybe some people that we get attached to. Thank you, Easy Peasy, and thank you as well, Kimberly G. Appreciate that. Viola, Rick will reunite with his family. That's my prediction. I'm not saying it's my prediction. I'm saying Viola is saying that's her prediction. Julie J says, The Walking Dead can go on without Rick. 999 would have problems without kills. You know what? If 999 killed me off at some point, then it would have to be an ensemble performance. Everyone else would have to step up. All of you would have to step up. So, yes, we're going to have something. Look, we're going to have our streams. We'll have our spoilers. We'll have our news, our information, our get-togethers the next couple of months, hanging out like we do. We'll have some random things in there. Starting next Tuesday, we'll have random things. I'll talk about that toward the end of this video in a few. Then we get The Walking Dead back on the 10th. And yes, we will be watching and discussing Game of Thrones. A lot of people ask me about Game of Thrones, and we will do streams with it. So let me say this. I know it's not for everybody. I binge watched it, and when people come up to me and they ask, and I'm talking about Game of Thrones, this is me talking. You don't have to agree with this. But I do want to give you like the complete warning. Okay? Because some people are like, it might be a little bit overboard. I would love for many of you to be in our Game of Thrones chats. And there's a lot of experts here that just dissect the show, and I'll get there. But if you walked up to me on the street and said, hey, tell me about it. In binge watching it, here's the deal. Now with Walking Dead, I wasn't hooked right away, and it took me a few seasons to really get into it. The last few seasons of Game of Thrones, to me, was better than The Walking Dead. The story was better. The action was better. And I'll tell you why. I mean, we're all adults here. But the first 2 seasons, I probably could have called it Game of Porn. And that's not going to appeal to everybody. So if you go and binge watch it, I just kind of want to throw that out there as a warning. If that's not your forte and you're not into it, I felt it got better when they kind of got away from that. That's just kind of my thought. And when people ask me about it, I tell them, like, look, just be ready for some very strong R-rated intimate scenes in the first couple seasons. And then they do gravitate away from it a little bit. But if you're binge watching it and you watch the first couple seasons, you might be sitting there with your kids like, oh my God, Kills told me to watch this. What am I doing? I mean, you got to know. Don't sit there with your children or your grandchildren like we're going to sit back and have some popcorn and watch this medieval show tonight, because that ain't happening. So, well, and Steph says this, and Steph's like, it's good loving. So my question, Steph, is, are you going to sit there and watch it with your 8-year-old nephew? Probably not. So that's just kind of what I would tell you. But you can probably sit there and watch Walking Dead with your kids, and it's not anything that they're... Yeah. Anyway, moving on. So if you want to join us for the chat and you do want to hang out with us, we're going to have a lot of different topics. Then binge watch it. I would love for you guys to binge watch it, because after Walking Dead, we will move into Game of Thrones. And then after Game of Thrones, we will move into Fear the Walking Dead. We will probably not have Game of Thrones chat on the 999 Dead channel. So hopefully you guys can start to see some of the direction that we're going with that. We'll figure out comics. We'll figure out random things. Over the next week or so, we're going to be doing a lot of chat here and hanging out. But you will start to see a direct path of where we're doing the streams, which is why I would love for you guys to join all of our channels. And that is our show for tonight. So we got into some possible reuniting conversation. A lot of fear chat. I did want to talk about fear, so but I didn't want to make a specific stream just about fear, because there's some people that kind of get turned off about it. They're not big fans of the show, but when we talk about both, then it definitely piques the interest a little bit. And certainly we will ramp up our Game of Thrones chat. And like I said, many of you may not want to watch it, but of course I would, anytime we do a stream, we have chat. I would love for each of you to be interested in being involved in it. But we can't everything. People say, Kills, we want to do Stranger Things, we want to do some Marvel stuff, we want to do 999 movies, and everything that we talk about doesn't appeal to everyone. Although I wished it did, because we just have some phenomenal chats and some great groups, because you guys really make the chat. And I learn a lot from just your insight into the comics and your insight into other TV shows. So with that, we have hit 55 minutes, and you know what that means. That means we are going to wind it down. If you guys are interested in other streams, we've done this a couple times. We will post another poll. We will put on the Facebook page. And every time we do it, we're just so all over the board. And we haven't found a lot of shows that everybody likes other than The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones. Those are the two biggest shows that our network really gravitates around and has a lot of stuff to talk about. I mean, I know there's Mayans and I know there's a lot of other stuff out there, but we're kind of hit and miss with some of that. So we will, let me make a couple announcements. We will be streaming tomorrow night at 9:30, so mark your calendars. Be there. I'm probably going to do a comments video on the 999 Gaming channel and also do a follow-up comment. So once these videos go live, leave your comments on there. There's a lot of creative stuff that's there, and I can't read all of them, but I do want to do a video and just kind of read some of your comments that are out there. So those are like really honest, genuine fan reactions. We are also in the middle of our caption contest. Get over to 999 Gaming. Leave your caption. You still got till Sunday at noon. On Sunday, we're going to make the announcement here of who the winner is, who gets the most likes, and then we're going to do a little giveaway with that. So there'll be a gift card giveaway. And also, next Tuesday will be our first random thing. So in like 3 months? So we're going to ramp that back up. We'll do those on Tuesdays. And we're also going to add a gift card giveaway in our first random thing stream, which is going to be next Tuesday. So there'll be some different topics. It'll be all over the place. Could be trivia, could be just some, stuff we posted, Easter eggs, hidden comments, stuff we put in our videos. So the more you watch, the more you pay attention, the better chance you have to win something. And it'd be kind of cool to do that stuff before we get into the holidays. All right, everybody. I want to thank everybody who is here tonight. Once again, there's a nice little icon down in the bottom right-hand corner. Subscribe, hang out with us. We'd love to have you here every night. I want to thank all the Patreons in the top left-hand corner. You guys can see we get a ton of outside support through the Patreons. If you guys are interested in becoming a Patreon, there is a link down below. So we continue to grow and continue to get a lot of awesome support. You can see the sponsors in the top right-hand corner. Our moderators are Emmy, Steph, Tommy, Kells. And as I said, Super Chats will be up when YouTube gets around to it. Could be a couple days. And let's give shout-outs to everybody in the 999 Army. So give me a quick 999. You guys know how it works. This is the closing credits, so if you guys don't want to hang out for some shout-outs, then I understand. Then this is the end. But if you do want to be acknowledged for all your awesomeness and everything you do for this channel, then type it up right now. Edwin Gonzalez, thanks for being here. Samantha Coombs, Walani, Michael Curie, Kimberly G, Gamma, Chris Riddle. Also, just want to say thank you to all of you guys who are here. I saw several people are under the weather, and hopefully you guys get well soon. But thank you, even though you're not 100%. Thank you for being here with us. I appreciate that, making that effort and that dedication. DDA Ohio, Ziglet, Tony Arovio, C. Crinch, Bumblebee Brown, Laura Brown, T.S. Arovio, Dana Finkler, Cammy, Easy Peasy, Lemon Squeezy. Thank you. Appreciate that. Heart of Nixie, Star Guitar Goddess. And when I see like some of the same names here every night, it really, really makes me feel good because, not that I expect it. I know people have schedules and they have real-world stuff that goes on, but it is kind of cool when I see a lot of you kind of block that little segment of time, that 1 hour every night, and you're here. But no hate on the people watch the playbacks because, love you guys too. Deborah Johnson, thanks for being here. Eric Beach, Lisa Khaleesi, I know you're one of those that wasn't feeling well, so get well soon. Uncle Creepy, thank you so much. Logan 5, Zelda Faz. Nav Malcolm, shaking my head, didn't make it till the end. Watch the playback, Nav. You got to watch it. And leave your comments. Najee Watts, thank you so much. Drama King, New York City, always a pleasure, my man. Thank you. Missing Pete D and Scott Kernan tonight. We're going to have to find out where those dudes are. Ron Burgundy Moore, have a great night. Crystal the Singer Chick. Diana C., thank you. Phyllis, 9654. Daryl, last man standing. That's a bold prediction. Thanks for being here. Drew is a god. Hey, 999 is the best Walking Dead channel. You know what? I'm never going to complain when I see that comment, because to me it just shows how awesome you guys are, because you guys make the channel. It's all of your comments and all your interaction. Newfield 12, thank you. Miss True as well. Andrew McSherry, appreciate you. 1189 Paris, thank you. William Finney, have a great night. Yeah, you guys are great. I appreciate it. Lee George, thank you. Viola McGowan, have a great night. Gina Crockett as well. Always a pleasure, Gina. Angie Homan, thank you. Julie J, thank you. Yep. Shout out to Tommy's mom, Mrs. Man Bun. Speedy recovery. All right, I probably missed a ton of shout outs, but Janet C, thank you. It's never personal. It's just, you guys see, it just kind of streams up. And leave a comment if I did, and just say, hey, Kills, you haven't shouted me out in a couple of videos, and I'll make it up to you. I'll see everybody here at 9:30 tomorrow night. Look for a video update on 999 Gaming tomorrow, and then also live stream will be here. And hang out with us on our Facebook fan page as well, too. I will see you all tomorrow night. Peace.